Hey, I'm Tom, and I was trying to sleep, but I just can't stop thinking about Glacier. You know, it's a problem that I know a lot of people my age have, where we try to concentrate and take care of ourselves, and, we can't get Ray Lloyd off of our minds. And so I figure I have an outlet. Let's talk about Glacier. We need to talk about Glacier. And we need to get a dialogue started. We all know the origins of the Glacier thing. Eric Bischoff had this idea for these characters, this blood runs cold universe that he could spin off into toys and video games, etc. Ray Lloyd, Georgia indie wrestler, was given the role of Glacier. I'm 99% sure Rob Van Dam was never actually offered the role of Glacier. It was just him assuming based off of something DDP had said to him on a phone call. Ray Lloyd has said apparently that at one point Bischoff took him and Diamond Dallas Page and Ernest Miller to like this underground fight club in a parking garage. It was like, I want to do this, but like kid friendly. And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Obviously, characters a direct ripoff of Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat. Why would this character, if this is all real, why would this guy wrestle? So like let's think of the Glacier story canon. They said on TV when he first started, his dad was a cop, right? His brother was a cop. That was the family line of business. And all Glacier's like, dude, I don't want to do that. Being a cop sucks. I'm gonna go be a karate dude. So he goes to Japan and like finds a grand master of karate who I don't believe they ever name. It's just very vague. He goes to Japan and learns karate from a grandmaster, right? Okay, so if he's a karate expert, why on earth does he join a pro wrestling promotion? Wouldn't he, join the UFC or like a karate group or something? Like, and you could say, oh, there's more money in pro wrestling, but was there more money in pro wrestling than the UFC at this point? If you're so good at karate? Also, where's the Glacier thing come from? Unless they were training in like the highest mountains of Japan, like Japan's a pretty decent climate. What's the Glacier thing about? We all know the story. They run the vignettes for months and months. They get delayed due to the NWO happening, and all of a sudden Eric Bischoff's got a new fun toy to play with, and he gets distracted, and Glacier ends up debuting on WCW Pro against the Gambler, kind of doing his dad's dirty work. He shuts down the Gamblers Underground Poker League, and then they pretend like Big Bubba's been complaining about him for months, which he hadn't been. But it's a story just so Glacier can beat Big Bubba on Nitro. So, and then Glacier, wins a couple matches here and there, beats Pat Tanaka, beats this dude, beats that dude, and then he disappears from TV. Because it turns out you can't steal a video game character and put it on your national TV show. That's right, Midway Games sent a cease and desist to CNN Center. They're like, hey, dude, you can't do that. That's our thing. And Eric Bischoff's like, shit, it is your thing. Ray Lloyd had to go back to the costume designer and they had to, modify some things on the suit. And the next thing you know, it's apparently good enough to pass a lawyer's judgment. He comes back in December, wins some more matches. But still, it's like, why is this guy wrestling? What is he getting out of defeating like Disco Inferno? Like the hero's journey? What is he getting out of that? Ethically, morally, nothing. He's just being an asshole with his karate. Well, Larry Zbyszko's on commentary like, a good wrestler can always beat a good karate master. And also around this time, Glacier loses his biggest on-screen proponent because Bischoff removes himself from commentary to become NWO dude. The boss isn't on commentary anymore, calling every single kick that Glacier does its technical name and going on about how karate is the superior fighting art or whatever. Glacier was going to be to Eric Bischoff what Ted DiBiase was, the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase was to Vince McMahon. But then the NWO thing starts and he's like, oh, I could be a cool greaser dude over here with these big WWF guys. So you karate dude can go screw off. I'm over here being cool in black and white. Well, around this time, they bring in Mortis with James Vandenberg, and it's kind of random. No, I don't think there was even an angle. It's just, oh, at Uncensored, Glacier's going to wrestle a guy named Mortis. But the story was that James Vandenberg was not a pro wrestling manager. He was a collector of oddities and weird treasures. And Glacier had this helmet from his grand master in Japan that had been passed down for centuries and centuries. And if that's the case, why is he bringing it around to pro wrestling shows? Doug Dillinger's not going to take care of that thing. It's just going to get swiped, brother. Take that shit to Antiques Roadshow. Get some money out of it. But apparently James Vandenberg had been stalking Glacier throughout his adult life, trying to get this helmet that we're supposed to care about, even though we don't know who it actually belonged to before Glacier. Therefore, we can't put worth on it. So that's on us as the viewer. I don't want to do that work. I want to sit down and watch little kicky kicks from the kicky kick guy. Eventually, they just straight up said it was a mask, but for the first little bit, I swear, they acted like the skull on Mortis's mask was Chris Canyon's actual exposed skull. In canon, could you imagine how irresponsible the WCW matchmakers and the state athletic commissions were, letting this guy who had an exposed skull face wrestle, engage in combat like this? The responsible thing to do would be to just send him to the hospital. Your bones are rotting. You look awful. Instead, they're like, oh yeah, you could wrestle, where you're probably going to get punched and have that thing bruised and chipped away at. Could you imagine him going in for his athletic commission physical? It says your name is Mortis? Is that first or last? Whatever, bro. So what's going on with the face thing? It's a condition, How many fingers am I holding up? A few maybe, I don't know. I've been pit fighting. They let me pit fight. Why don't you let me do this? That's a good argument. Mortis, any noticeable contusions or injuries? No. All right, sir. You are set to wrestle and fight in our state. No problem. And good luck. Thank you. My Canyon is more like a Bruce Valanche. So Glacier and Mortis wrestle, and Glacier beats him. But then immediately Wrath debuts, Brian Clark, Adam Bomb. And I feel bad for Canyon here, because as soon as he debuts, and he's got the sweet mask, but immediately they bring in a bigger guy, also with a big metal thing on his head. And he's got a stick with a thing on it. Kind of undercuts him, immediately. So now Glacier's fighting both these dudes, and it's the same thing every week. He tries to fight one, and the other one's like, nope, fuck you. We need your helmet for this guy who we've never determined what the relationship between James Vandenberg and Mortis and Wrath is. Mortis, according to canon, is a pit fighter who has dominated the pits of Malaysia. For those of you who were not fans of what would become MMA in the 90s, pit fighting just refers to any type of fight on any type of surface. It's not like a fighting style. It's like if you put two guys in a square and a crowd surrounding them, that's pit fighting. It was one of those made up things. Trap fighting was allegedly a thing for a bit in the 90s. That people had black belts in. Again, not a real thing. But it sounded cool. It was a video game. So if it's a video game, it's good enough for this pro wrestler whose skull is exposed. So we got Mortis, we got Wrath, we got Glacier. You know, this universe is starting to develop these karate martial arts pit fighting superheroes. Slamboree 97 that May, we have another Glacier versus Mortis match. And wouldn't you know it, Wrath interferes again. And then a dude jumps the rail and beats the living crap out of Mortis and Wrath. And we find out it is 3-time world karate champion Ernest the Cat Miller. So we all know Ernest Miller was Garrett Bischoff's karate instructor. And I guess Eric Bischoff promised Ernest a cushy WCW job because he was so good with the kid and whatever. And you know, I mean, these are the guys to bring him in with. Like, it's just funny that because Eric Bischoff was a karate nerd, he, like, expected all of us to know who the fuck this point karate champion was. His nickname was the Cat Ernest Miller. Why couldn't he have a fun Blood Runs Cold name? Like Feline or Panther. Instead, we've got Mortis and Wrath against Glacier and Ernest. Sweet superhero Ernest. So now the feud is just a bunch of tag matches. There's a Wrath Glacier singles match at the Great American Bash that for some reason Ernest Miller isn't at. Like, did he have a karate meet to judge at or something? Glacier gets his butt kicked at the Great American Bash, and then Bash at the Beach. Mortis and Wrath beat Glacier and Ernest Miller. It's his first loss, whatever. And then it just ends. Well, that's it. They just stop wrestling each other. Mortis and Wrath go on their own way. James Vandenberg's like, who cares? I'm over the whole helmet thing. We need to move on. So in hindsight, like a lot of wasted opportunities, what I would have done. Let me put on my fantasy booking cap for a second. Around the same time they brought Glacier on TV, they hired Jerry Flynn, who was another karate boy. And he also looked like a cop. So what if Jerry Flynn was Glacier's brother, who was upset that Glacier ditched the family business of harassing civilians? And he's like, hey man, I'm going to beat you up and you're going to become a cop instead of a bunch of fucking snow. And Glacier's like, no, brother, ACAB. And like we find out Jerry Flynn has like learned karate specifically to fuck up his brother. But then like Mortis and Wrath show up and the brothers Glacier have to like come together to like fight crime in WCW. That gives Glacier a purpose other than being a karate fighter in a wrestling group. But also Jerry Flynn fucking looked like a cop. Like, let's be real. Like, that is a cop wrestler, if I've ever seen one. Like, you have an actual, like, black belt in this shit, Jerry Flynn. And you're just like, You're just gonna be a guy that gets beat up a lot, that's not attached to any of this other shit we're doing. Just be over there. So there you are. I think I'll be able to sleep a little better now. Getting all this off my chest about Glacier, what they should have done, and the shit that just irked me. Let me know what you think in the comments. Type away. We'll have a dialogue down there. Like, comment, subscribe, hype. I don't know, man. So again, my name is Tom, and now it smells better over here.